Welcome to another video. I've decided to make a character that is inspired by my grandmother. Her name was Ethel Mary Gangness, and she was a very creative person herself and always encouraged the creative side of me. While I was growing up, she really loved things like music and crafting, and I decided to take certain elements of her life and our life together in order to create a new character for the show. And she loved dogs. She always had dogs while I was growing up. So I decided that would be a good character to do. And one thing that her and my grandfather were also interested in as a hobby was a latch hook making, hook rugging. And so that's such an amazing opportunity to create something with a lot of texture. So I decided to use that technique as the base for the character. In this case, it's going to be a dog. So a lot of planning went into creating a look like this, because literally every single strand of hair on this look is going to be hand done with a latch hook. And so a lot of planning goes into doing this as efficiently as possible. So we start with something like this. We start with a basic sketch, and then we start with a swatch like this to sort of figure out the colors that we wanted to do. At one point I experimented with some blue. I knew that I wanted to use yellow because it's a color that is missing from the cast of characters of the Vancouver Pupps. I haven't done a yellow look yet, so I decided that I would use yellow as a base and put some spots on the dog that was an unusual color, something that you don't naturally see in the animal kingdom. So I decided to use green. I like the green spots. So green on yellow is what we're going with. And then we also create a swatch like this, which has different lengths. Essentially, when you're doing this latch hooking, you can make the yarns any length that you want. So in order to plan out, I did a series of swatches with different lengths. So these are inches, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch, all the way down to 10 inch. To give me an idea of what the texture of the yarn will be like after it's been done in those lengths. And then finally, you do a 3D model, such as this. This was made, I made this out of paper mache, and I used this to do the final planning of where the different lengths of the yarns are going to be, and most importantly though is the colors, how much of the colors are going to do. So that's what we started with, and hopefully that's what we end up with, something along those lines. Now this look is now actually all complete, and it's a very warm look. The entire outfit is made of acrylic yarns, and it's a very heavy look and a very warm look. So the performer will only be able to do it for short periods of time. This is another look that really relies on careful planning in order to have it most effective. Now the entire look is broken up into a lot of pieces. This is the head, and it's all complete. It's all mounted onto a helmet that the puppeteer wears. Sets of feet like this for the back feet that the puppeteer wears. So this is one of the first things that are put on. This is the tail of the dog. An important lesson to learn about costume making, whenever you're doing something with the tail, is never attach the tail to the costume. Always attach the tail, root it physically to the puppeteer, because guaranteed somebody at some point is going to pull on that tail, and if it's not on very secure, it's going to just rip right off. So it's much stronger. So this is actually attached to a belt, which will go through a hole in the body of the dog and will be physically wrapped around the puppeteer. So it's going to be really strong. There's no way that this tail is going to be able to be ripped off of the body. And this is one of two arm stilts that I've created, which will actually be placed into the front legs of the body, which I'll be showing you separately in just a little bit. And basically these were made with PVC pipe and bolts, and there are handles that go through in the side, and then there's extra padding up top to protect the arms. So basically these go on like this, and this adds the sort of angle of the front arms of the dog and extends the arms of the puppeteer, so that when you're inside the costume, the puppeteer won't be so far hunched over, and their back will be a little more straight and the limbs will be a little more even, creating a more realistic looking animal. Now before we take a look at the body, I'm going to talk a little bit about the latch hooking that I did for this. Now, the body is the largest single piece. I recorded a little footage video here and there of the process of it all coming together. Overall it took about a month and a half to complete the whole look. If there is a lot of interest in how to latch hook, I figured that would be a topic for maybe a workshop video instead of this. I want to try and keep this video very brief. But if there is any interest in latch hooking and how to latch hook, please let me know in the comments below, and that could be a potential workshop that we could do for the channel. All right, and there it is. So there is the entire look kind of all put together in its individual pieces. The body is the single biggest piece, and it includes, it does not include the back feet, which I already showed you, of course. They're right there. They're a separate set of shoes. But then the body does include the back legs, the body, the front legs, and the front feet are built all into one piece, and that's it. And the entire thing has been done. There's a longer, shaggier hair on the back, and longer, hairier, shaggier yarns for fur on the bottom of the legs. And then the underbelly and most of the feet and the front legs and feet are all done with a shorter yarn. There is the hole in the back tailbone area for the belt of the tail to be pulled through. So we are almost ready to start putting these pieces on for the final fitting, but the first thing we need to do is put these stilts into the front legs, and this is done by slipping them through zippers that I've installed on both of the legs so that they can just go in nice and easy that way. So that's the next step. All right, and there you go. So now these stilts are inside of the front of the body. So now the next step is to try and get into this thing. Now, ordinarily, this sort of a costume requires an assistant to sort of get in and out of it much easier. I don't really know how this is going to work, but I'm going to attempt to just get into this entire thing to the best of my ability. And yeah, hopefully we can just get a little bit of footage of the whole thing sort of operating together, just to kind of get an idea of how it's going to look before we try and use this out there in the field somewhere. All right, so let's see how this goes. This one was for you, Grandma.